And we are live, Senators.
Thank you, Alex. And good afternoon again, everybody. This is the State Senate Committee on Institutions. We're switching gears this afternoon to talk about the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board and its update on an annual letter that they deliver us regarding capital bill balances. Gus, welcome back to the committee. I'm going to give my spiel that I do for all witnesses. I learned last week, much to my surprise, we had on one occasion over 100 viewers on YouTube, which totally shocked me. And I realized that perhaps there are people out there watching who have never been in a government committee before, much less learned about things that we're about to talk about. So what I'm trying to do with everybody is to ask you to talk from the 50,000 foot level by first introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about your background and how you fit into the government process. And as you wind your way into your testimony, if I hear something that you're talking about that may be very commonly known between us, but yet maybe red flagged by somebody out there in YouTube land, I might interrupt your testimony to ask you to explain what X, Y, or Z means. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to make sure we cover all of our bases for those who may be watching. So we're going to get back into a discussion that we were having last year, and we always ask for a report from you folks. And every time we get one of those reports, we should be updating ourselves along with you for having gone through the process of developing that report. And there may be other things you'd like to update us on about what's going on with this particular part of the capital bill expenditures. Gus, I have you on the first of my list of three witnesses, and welcome back, Jennifer Holler and Trey Martin. I think you've all been here before. But the upshot is, Gus, I'm going to turn it over to you, and please do introduce yourself.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and committee members. For the record, I'm Gus Seelig. I'm the Executive Director for the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board, and I've been at this almost as long as Senator Mazza has been.
You and I have been around a long time.
We're both getting old together, which is we're both on the right side of the grass, Senator. And it's been an honor to work with this committee. Very briefly, since you asked for, let me introduce my colleagues. Jen Holler is our Director of Policy, and Trey Martin, who you have met in the past in other roles, is our new Director of Planning and Program Development, because you and your colleagues across the legislature have put a lot of work on our plates, and we're trying to make sure we're doing it as well as possible, whether it's capital bill, CRF, ARPA, or the property transfer tax.
Now, Gus, you've just gone through several acronyms there, and I want to make sure we're playing out in plain English for the listening public what those things mean.
Okay, well, the capital bill is the bill this committee is responsible for that provides funding through general obligation bonds of the state of Vermont. The CRF funding I spoke to is the Coronavirus Relief Fund that the state got a couple of years ago in response to the COVID emergency. That was and you allocated $33 million. The General Assembly did to us to get housing built as quickly as we could. ARPA is a new COVID relief program that the legislature and the state got last spring, and significant resources have been allocated to us. And the other part of our budget generally comes from the property transfer tax, which was raised many years ago in order to support our work and that of the regional planning commissions and local planning commissions across the state. The board's mission is really pretty simple. When you think about it, it is to, within the context of our housing work and our rural community development work and conservation work, to get tax dollars back to the people you represent to do good things in their community that's consistent with our mission. And we try to help them both with the capital cost of that and with technical assistance. So that's generally our role. We're a grant maker, sort of a public foundation, and we are accountable to you, the legislature, for how we expend dollars. And we're here today to discuss one part of that, the capital bill, but really the capital bill expenditures go to every part of our mission. So we're going to give a brief PowerPoint overview that Jen will drive that will just lay out the things we've been up to. And then we're happy to discuss the letter that we recently gave you on where we are with a variety of expenditures. So if Jen can screen share, we'll go to the PowerPoint at this moment.
Wonderful explanation. I appreciate that.
Okay, so this first slide, as we introduce ourselves to you, speaks to a conservation project, but a really important one that was funded, I think, with the capital bill appropriation, the Huntington Community Forest. And you see kids and their teacher outside because of COVID, but also because being outside is a good thing to do. The Huntington Town Forest is right adjacent to the school in Huntington. We were up there with Senator Leahy when the acquisition happened last spring, and it's a great resource for the whole community. It's among many community forest projects we've been up to in recent years. In addition to the value of being able to have an outside classroom, is that this is also a science classroom along with a great recreation resource for the whole community and for anybody who's visiting Huntington with trails through it. Let's move to the next slide, Jen. The largest part of the board's work is the development of affordable housing. And this fall, the top two projects opened, the Cornerstone building in St. Johnsbury and phase two of what is about a 50-unit development in Hartford, where there's much needed housing. And let me just say for a moment, the Cornerstone building in St. Johnsbury is typical of our major goals, and we've done this all across the state, which is to help revitalize our downtowns and our village centers, sometimes in much smaller communities than St. Johnsbury. This community had a community visit process that was put on by Paul Costello and the Council on Rural Development about 5 years ago. And this building was identified as the community's #1 priority, in part because the commercial space you see had been mostly vacant over the last 20 years. And it's like 10,000 square feet right at the key corner in town. But it was also a top priority because the apartments were in terrible shape. They were site of a bed bug infestation that never got cured, an out-of-state owner who really didn't care about the community. And with capital bill appropriation, we helped acquire the property through a group called Evernorth. You may know them as Housing Vermont. And the renovations have taken place, and there are now 40 very nice apartments. And I'm told most, if not all, of the commercial space is now fully leased up. Bottom picture is a project that was more than a decade in the planning, and I was happy to join Senator Mazza last summer as we broke ground. And next summer, 30 elders should be able to move into this wonderful facility that's also going to help anchor a village center for South Hero. Let's move on to the next slide. Recreation and historic preservation are a part of our mission, and Senator Flory, when she was leading this committee, again, provided a special appropriation, some money going to St. Johnsbury, but $200,000 went to this bridge that you see. This is a bridge that connects the Bluffside Farm, which is in the city of Newport, with Prouty Beach, a great park, and downtown. At the far end of the Bluffside Farm is the BB Rail Trail, which is a bike trail that gets you to the Canadian border and well beyond. So while we think of this as a conservation investment, it's actually a community development, a community economic development investment. This committee has worked hard on the Lamoille Valley Rail Trail and committed lots of resources to it. A group in Danville came to us last year and asked if we could help them with the revitalization of this train station as a historic site, a visitor center, and a place for the Historical Society, and a way to draw people off the trail into the village of Danville and all it has to offer. And I can tell you there's a wonderful bakery there. I've enjoyed their croissants and other goods one time with Senator Kitchell. And it's good that there's a bike trail because when you get done eating there, you need the exercise. Let's move on to the next slide. Something we did with Senator Mazza and Governor Dean back more than 20 years ago was to help acquire Allberg Dunes State Park and turn it into a state park. This year, we're adding 160 acres of the bluffs to the park, which will enhance the whole feel of the park, protect the investment that's already been made there, and really be a wonderful addition. Down below, and we'll talk for a moment about our water quality mission and climate goals, is a restoration of floodplain in Bethel. We've done a number of these kinds of projects now. One was down in Brattleboro where we bought 5 acres to help give the Whetstone Brook a place to go. Bethel is one of those places that really suffered when Hurricane Irene came through. So this is an important resilience investment, along with it being a water quality and conservation investment. Let's move along to the next slide. About 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, we bought development rights on the Schweinier farm up in Highgate. And the top right picture shows what the farm looked like back then when Guy's dad was operating it. The bottom picture shows you what it looks like today. And we were really pleased. This year, we nominated Guy for the Aldo Leopold Conservation Award, and he was the winner. NRCS would tell you he is their #1 cooperator and ambassador for best practices to enrich soil and protect water quality of anybody that they work with. He's now planning the transfer of the farm to his son. He actually increased, not just restored this farm in terms of soil health, but bought another parcel and is doing quite well. And he's just a wonderful person that we've had the opportunity to work with over the years. And it was great that he got this recognition. For those of you who don't know, Aldo Leopold wrote a book many years ago called The Sand County Almanac, and that's sort of a Bible within the conservation world of understanding conservation, understanding the importance of soil health and soil quality, and it was great for him to get this recognition. Let's move on to the next slide. Some of you may know that the A&R came to us when NVDA decided they did not want to serve as a clean water service provider for the Lake Memphremagog Basin and asked if we would try taking that on. Because you fund us in a number of ways to support water quality, we decided to take a shot at this and agreed, and we've now been designated as the clean water service provider. We've hired a woman named Kendall Lambert, who currently lives in Newport. I think she's about to relocate with her husband to St. Jay, but she knows the community, knows the issues well, and she's going to lead that effort up there with the support of all of our staff. So that's what's ahead of us coming up. Here's the proposed capital bill. I think it is just about exactly the same as the current capital bill in terms of proposed appropriations to the board. So $800,000 is for water quality projects that we do with farmers. It's a competitive grant process. Current year, we provide a maximum of $40,000. These dollars are often matching both either BMP money or NRCS equip money, or sometimes doing projects that never get high enough on the priority scale for either of those programs, but really can make a difference. $2 million is for our land conservation work, where that work will have water quality benefits, such as what I just showed you in Bethel, or high elevation lands where we're protecting the headwaters. And then $1.8 million for our general mission. So that's the governor's proposal to you this year. And with that, I'm going to stop talking. We can take the slideshow down, Jen, and we can answer your questions about the letter or anything else that's on your mind today.
Well,
and I guess I just also want to just say thank you for the support this committee has given us over many years.
I have one question comes immediately to mind. You skillfully gave us examples of a project in each one of our districts. but only one of us was invited to a picture taking. That would be Senator Mazza. How does that work?
You know, there was an event.
I was there before you were there. So
There was an event in St. Johnsbury, but it was by Zoom, and I hope you got an invitation to it. And I also hope there'll be a real live ribbon cutting next spring when we can all be outside together.
he'll be there for that one.
Yeah. You did a really nice job on the St. Johnsbury. You call it the corner house, I think, but I know it as the New Avenue Hotel. That really does look sharp.
Looks
Really
nice.
improved.
Sharp. Yep.
Senator McCormick.
Thanks. I think I am looking right now out my window at the stream stabilization in Bethel. The location is about a mile upstream of Bethel Village on the main branch.
Yes.
Yeah. You want to see it?
You want to take your picture next to it? Next time you can incorporate that into his annual report.
The angry old boys in town are convinced that I pulled strings to get that done to enhance my view. But
Senator Ingalls. Yes, Senator Ingalls.
Thank you, Mr. Seelig, for that overview. It was very nice. Just good to see the projects, and I think all of those projects that we saw were, were needed in the communities and served purposes. What we're seeing some in the institution, in the transportation committees, are some of these projects are some of the construction projects, the housing projects. Some of those are getting built ahead of their times a little bit without looking for ways to make sure that they keep up with the state's plans for electrification. And I would just ask that, moving forward, that as far as for electric car charging capabilities and stuff like that, and the reason why I say that is that every week it seems like somebody's coming in and we're looking at retrofitting, and a lot of those are new buildings already. So as we move forward, I hope that we can all coordinate and make sure that we're making plans for what Vermont's future is going to look like in the next 50 years.
I think that's an excellent point. We've recently been talking to the Department of Housing and Community Development and the Commerce Agency about how we can help get people, as they plan projects, to put electric charging stations into their developments. So we are aware of that as a key issue. There are not a lot of folks that we house that have electric vehicles now, but I was talking with one advocate recently about perhaps developing a car share program that would provide electric vehicles. So I think there are ways at it, even with people of very modest means. So I think your point is very well taken.
And I think lots of times just maybe not ready for that point in time, but to not have to go back and retrofit something, dead end something into a connection someplace, so that in the future they'd have a spot to easily to fit in for what that goal would be.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So Gus, is there truth to the rumor you're going to extend that bridge up in Newport up into Canada so that when the redistricting takes place, Russ can get to his new constituency?
I can get there on my boat, so don't waste the money. Put it in Maz's area. He needs it.
I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to bring to us this afternoon. You're free to talk about the world in general at this point, but I appreciate you bringing us up to speed on these projects.
I guess I would just say to you that we're at a critical point with our housing market in Vermont and our real estate market, where prices are just going up, as you all know, quite dramatically. And the cost of construction has never been higher. And I'll just speak to this from a personal perspective. My daughter wants to build a house on our land, and a builder came out to meet with her a couple months ago. And she said, when are you available? He said, a year from now. And what will it cost? She wants to build a 12 to 1,500 square foot home. And he said, right now the lumber yards will hold pricing for him for 48 hours. So it's really hard to predict what a home is going to cost. But he said, even with free land, don't expect, and a small house, don't expect to spend less than $400,000. So we could have been very criticized for the cost of the New Avenue Hotel, which was over $300,000 per apartment. Today, it's going to look like a bargain. If we were to put that out for bid today, it would be much more expensive. I'm glad we did it when we did it. And I guess I would just say to you, I think that in terms of young people wanting to access land, in terms of agriculture, it's a real challenge today. And a big part of the work we do, whether it's in buying development rights or in affordable housing, is to try to bring the cost down to a place that people can make things work. And so whether through the capital bill or when you get to the big bill, I think our work touches a lot of parts of our economy. One other thing which I didn't discuss in talking about the bridge, but most of you have many rural constituents, is that we've developed a program, and this was actually Senator Starr's brainchild along with Ted Brady when he was Deputy Secretary of Commerce, called the Rural Economic Development Initiative. And that program is for communities and businesses located in communities of 5,000 or less to help them access grants. And right now there are more grant programs and more federal aid than we've ever seen. We've invested about $350,000 over 4 years, and it's generated millions of dollars of results. This year we helped 8 different farmers get value-added producer grants across the state from USDA. The bridge in Newport, we helped in the writing of successful writing of about $600,000 of grants that went into that bridge. So it's been a really effective program across rural communities. So those are a few other points might highlight while I'm with you. And again, if there are questions about the unexpended funds, we're happy to talk about that as well. But we feel like they're all going to go out the door over the next 12 months without any difficulty.
Do those monies have to be spent by a given time?
Not that I am aware of.
Okay. We have heard constantly about the need for housing in this state. We all know what the problem is, but none of us collectively have come up with an answer yet. Do you have an answer?
What I would say is 2 different things. I don't have an easy answer, and I do think that we have a market that's broken, and we can all debate what the proper role of government is, but when a market stops functioning effectively, that's a time for government to invest. So I completely support the governor's call for investing more ARPA funding into housing. The cost of housing has gone up way higher than anybody's incomes have gone up, and that creates a gap in affordability. So, if a modest new home, starter home, 1,200 square feet, is going to cost near $400,000, that's, and we think that somebody making $60,000 or $70,000 a year has a good job. Those kinds of incomes don't get you to that kind of mortgage payment unless you have a lot of family help or something like that. So we need to bridge this gap that the market has created. What you will see across the last 4 decades is less and less housing construction in Vermont every year. And we now have a supply problem. So we have an imbalance between supply and demand. And one of the things that happened with the virus is it brought a whole bunch of people to our state, along with remote work, who are able to, afford real estate at a level that a lot of Vermonters can't. So we're in a difficult place. It's going to take a long time to get out of the place we're in. We worked with the department on a model bylaws project to help municipalities plan for and allow greater densities. That will help on the margins, but the fact is that the cost right now is just beyond what a lot of Vermonters earn, whether they are and it contributes to our labor shortage, as you all know.
Well, I want to, sorry to interrupt Gus, but point out, I think the density thing is going to be more than the margins. I know people up in my neck of the woods, particularly in St. Albans City, who would invest millions of dollars into new housing if they would just increase density. The city doesn't want to, but that we're the fastest growing corner of the state of Vermont, the northwestern corner. And, we need public infrastructure and we need to allow dense housing. I mean, that's the issue. I mean, I looked at a plot of land on a project with my parents to buy inexpensively in the city, but you really can't do much with it when you look at their rules. And so that's the reality up here is what I'm finding is it really comes down to local zoning laws, I think, are inhibiting more than actual investment of cost and having the money available. Because for some reason there's money flying around up here. It's just buying up the only things that are already built. I think people would rather build new. They just can't.
Yeah, and I think that people, when they contact builders like my daughter did, they're a year out, and that's part of why they're looking at existing parcels. I'm completely agreeing with you, Senator Parent, that we need to allow greater densities. You may know we were involved in the two buildings across from City Hall in St. Albans, which provide some great density. We did a project some years ago for veterans in Winooski, and it's a 5-story building on a 1/4-acre lot. And what I like to tell people when I show a picture of it is this one building is what 128 units per acre looks like, because we were able to build 5 stories there. When I'm saying it's going to help at the margins is that when I talk with developers, and we're involved in a 70-unit building on Pine Street in Burlington, and we've worked with Eric Farrell's development up at Cambrian Rise, is that even when you're building 70 units at a time, right now the cost is extraordinarily high. And that's got to do with supply chain interruptions and all kinds of other problems that have plagued the cost of materials.
Gus, I wonder if it's also worth mentioning that there's some, as you all probably know, there's some pretty significant discussions and work going on in the Senate Economic Development and the Senate Natural Resources committees around this issue. And to the extent we can, we're trying to be supportive by providing information and encouraging certain pieces there. And it looks like people are pretty focused on making some progress there on the zoning and land use issues.
Good. Committee, other questions? Anything else you wanted to tell us?
I think we've hit the highlights, and we're happy to come back at any point that you have questions for us, and we hope you'll be supportive of the governor's recommendations.
Well, as you know, we don't have the capital bill technically yet. I'm sure there'll be some tweaks before it comes out of the House committee. Probably be some more tweaks when it gets into our committee. So I'm sure we'll have you back to have a conversation at some point in the future.
Okay.
Thank you all.
It's good to see all of you. I hope at some point we can see each other in person. Take
We're going
care.
to take that $25 million that the State House wants for expansion, put it into housing.
You get to decide.
Thanks again for coming.
That's a
Have
question.
a great weekend.
Thank you,
Senator
Chair.
Monza
Thank you
is
all.
such a bleeding heart liberal. I'll tell you.
Thank you for
Take
your
care.
time.
Thank you.